I am Carmelo Mesa-Lago, and I received the Sheth Award in 2020. Yes, before I received the award about 1 year, I was working in a long project. It took me altogether about 2 years, which was an evaluation of the pension privatization process in Latin America between 1980 and 2020. So I have been working on evaluating the effects of these pensions in Latin America, but also in other countries of the world. And every 10 years or so, I publish a paper. But in 2019, I decided that I wanted to put the whole thing together in a book. And so I did. I received the Sheth Award, and then the book was published by the Friedrich Ebert Foundation. This is the German foundation, office in Mexico City. It was published first in Spanish in 2020 after the award was given to me. And then it also appeared in English in 2021. The book has received already about a dozen reviews all over the world, half of them in English, in the most important academic journals in the field. So that was a special moment for me, because I was closing to finish the work that I have started 1 year or so before. I am 88 years old, but my mind is like I was in my 20s. The body is over there. And I retired in the year 2000 when I was 65, but since then, I have been working on research and consultanships. I am an international consultant on Social Security. And this work actually helped me a lot during the pandemic, because otherwise I think I would have gone completely nuts. So I work on Monday to Friday about 8 hours daily. And about 2 years ago, I began another research project, probably one of the most difficult in my career, because it's an evaluation of the economic and Social Security performance in 3 different socialist economic models. It was a very difficult project, probably the most difficult in my life, because my academic work has been mostly done in Latin America. I have been also in Africa and in Asia. I have done work in the Philippines, for instance, in Ghana, in Egypt, and in Europe, but I didn't know enough on China, and as I said, zero on Vietnam. So I am very happy this is done. The book, I just got news that the book has been sent to 3 external reviewers, and I have my finger crossed. When I retired in the year 2000, I didn't stop working. I was a visiting professor at Florida International University for 3 years. I got a visiting professorship chair in Tulane University, and I have been giving lectures all over the world. And I have published more books and academic articles in the last 22 years that in my entire career, when I was a professor, first visiting, then associate, and then finally professor, and then I got a professorship at Pitt. So that means not only I didn't stop working, but I have produced more than I was actively employed. Also, I have done more consultanship in these 22 years than before. But the confession is that once you retire, and it's not only the case in the University of Pittsburgh, this is true all over, all universities in the United States. You practically become a known person. For instance, my parking lot was taken away. My office was taken away. I was given a tiny office where I have all my books, and eventually that office was taken to give it to a visiting professor. If I may, I couldn't do long distance telephone calls. If I use the printer, I have to pay for the copies of the printer. My computer was a disaster. The printer didn't work. So I found abandon. This is the word. And particularly because every time that I publish something, or I receive an international award, or I receive an homage, the University of Pittsburgh is mentioned. And so the university is benefiting freely, without any cost, of all my research and publications and scholarship and awards. And I think this is unfair. There are professors that retire, and I respect that, and they decide to do nothing else and rest. I am a different character. I have to do something in order to feel myself useful, and also to entertain myself, because otherwise I don't know what to do. Maybe I am a workaholic, I don't know. So there are exceptions to this situation. For instance, I am extremely grateful to Professor Ariel Armory, who is the Vice Chancellor of Global Affairs of Pitt, and also the Director of the Center for International Studies, because since he arrived in the university, he has been helping me in my research. I received from him small research grants in order to travel or hire a research assistant to help me in my work. He has been exceptional, and I am very grateful to him. But this is not true for the rest of the university. Now the economics department, by the way, in ResearchGate, which is a blog that follows the research and publications of scholars all over the world, every month in the last 20 years, I have been ranked the most read and cited professor in the Department of Economics. Now the department is going to interview me in June, and I am grateful to that. But why do I say all this? Because the Sheth Award International Achievement recognize all the work that I have done in the last 22 years as a professor emeritus. And I exhort the committee for the next award to do the same. I understand in my conversations with Professor Armory that Professor Emeritus will be considered for the award. And this is very important. It's very important because it's a way to acknowledge all the work that we do. I mean, many of us continue working and that benefit the university. So that's the impact of the Sheth Award, and I am very grateful for that. As I said before, Pittsburgh have a tremendous influence in my career. I arrived here in Pittsburgh in the year 1967. I have not even finished my dissertation at Cornell University, which, by the way, was a comparison of employment and unemployment in the Soviet Union, China, Yugoslavia, then Yugoslavia and Cuba. So that was my first work on China. I finished the dissertation 8 months after I arrived here. So I began as an instructor and an assistant director for the Center of Latin American Studies that Professor Paul Blazer, my mentor, founded in 1964. So I was exempted from teaching in the first semester or trimester term in order to finish my dissertation, which I did, and I received my PhD in February of '68. And then after a lot of publications, I organized international conferences at Pitt. And also I helped to make the Center for Latin American Studies one of the best in the United States. I was able to reach to get money for an endowment for the center. I got a lot of grants from different foundations, Ford, Rockefeller, Mellon Foundation, and many others. And of course, very important, for the first time, Pitt received one of the Title VI grants to support the Area Studies Center in Latin American Pitt, and that was in 1979. Except for a brief period of 2 years, the university have had that grant from the federal government. So eventually, I was promoted to associate professor and also associate director of the Center for Latin American Studies. And finally, I was promoted to professor, and then after that, I was given the honor of a distinguished professorship on economics and Latin American. So I have several offers from other universities, and I turned them down. Pitt always came back with a counter offer, and I wanted to stay here. As I said, I like the city a lot. I think the university have done a phenomenal work, going steadily up in the last 50 years or so. The university also was very generous. I received several sabbaticals. And in each of the sabbaticals, I wrote a book or 2 or 3 academic articles. So these sabbaticals allow me, because at the same time that I was involved in the administration of the Center for Latin American Studies, I was teaching 1 course per semester. I made a case that I wanted to teach because I wanted to be in touch with the students. I have learned a lot from my students. They challenge me, they give me ideas. One thing is that any student of mine that have collaborated in 1 book or in 1 article always receive either authorship or a significant recognition, depending on the amount of work that they put in this research assistantship. And one of my great things in life is to have students that are now at the top of the profession or at the top of international and regional organizations. For instance, the International Labor Office, there are 2 students of mine there in very important positions. I have several of my graduate students that have chairships, for instance, in Harvard. So what the students, the former students do, I take as a personal satisfaction. And aside from my family, my wife, Helena, and my 3 daughters and 2 grandsons, the most important thing for me is the success of my former students. So Pitt has been very important in my career. I have published altogether some 95 books in 9 languages in 34 countries, and more than 300 academic articles. And so this is due to Pitt. I am very grateful for the university for this support. I have to say that when I came to the United States, I was born in Cuba and came to this country in 1962. My English was primitive, to say the best. And I learned it was a very hard, difficult. I have a master's degree in economics. I have a PhD on economics of social security. So grateful to the United States. In these times in which migration is considered a headache and a problem, I think together with millions of other immigrants in the United States, is an example of what immigration can do to this country. I know a lot of immigrants that have Pulitzer Prizes in theater, in literature, in history, Emmy Prizes have been received by Cuban immigrants. And the same, of course, can be said about immigrants from many other countries in Latin America, Asia, etc. So, an exhortation to the leadership of this country to recognize the importance of immigration and the contribution of immigrants to the greatness of the United States. To me and to others, and I am grateful to Dr. and Mrs. Sheth for supporting this important award.